I roll out like some cute music. So just so it's not like awkward ending, I was gonna ask you if you're cool, like we're just like dancing. It's cool. Good morning.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning. And I know that this topic is near and dear to both of our hearts and the work that we were engaged in, not only in our professional development worlds through INSPRA and CalSPRA and the services to our state SPRAs, but in our districts.
Right.
So Lesley, thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to this. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you came from.
Well, I got my start in television news. So I spent about 7 years working in television news as an anchor, a reporter, and then I ended up as a weekend sports reporter, if you can believe that. Actually, sports anchor. I did that for a few years. And then I decided, well, I mean, you know, that's one of those extra credits. That's another story for another time.
Okay.
But I ended up doing that for about 7 years and then had an opportunity to go into what I would refer to as the family business. Most of my parents were educators, and grandmother, great-grandmother, and cousin. And I always said, I'm not going into education, but then a position became open in school public relations, and I jumped on that. Better schedule, better everything for me in that season of life. And so I spent about 12 years working in school public relations, also spent some time working in nonprofit communications, and now I'm working for a private consulting firm.
So, which is great, and why I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So let's just jump in to the deep end here, and let's talk through like the main like high level elements of the tools that we all have. So not specific, platforms, but let's talk about website, phone, email, text, social media. Let's start with phone. When you're talking to a school district, what are some of the conversations you have around how to leverage phone, email, and text?
One of the first things that I like to do is to take stock of what's in the cupboard. Everyone has seen the TV show on the Food Network, Chopped. And in order to be successful in that, you've got to know what you've got in the basket. Part of what I think has been part of my success as a practitioner is taking stock of what's in that basket and figuring out the right combination of resources to be able to support those communications needs. Just because it all comes in one platform doesn't mean that you have to use it that way as intended. And people who know me very well professionally know that I'm one of these people that really likes to push the boundaries on how you can use a particular product or tool. So these parts and pieces of different platforms, I like to intermix them together to be able to dial up just the right play at just the right moment.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. I've actually just talked to a couple of parents last week at TSPRA. By the way, I should mention that we're here at CalSPRA. So the California School Public Relations Association annual conference. We're here in sunny southern San Diego here. It's actually very rainy and cloudy outside, which is unusual for us, but we are here at the CalSPRA Conference Hotel, and there is a lot of setup happening right now at this moment. So if you do hear kind of banging or any of the noises in the background, we are at the Conference Hotel. It is a very active place. But you bring up a really good point. I talked to a couple of parents last week at TSPRA who were concerned with the inundation they feel is coming from just one place and one platform instead of that strategic.
I love that you brought that up, because I think a lot of what has gone around to some of our edu-leaders, whether they work in school public relations, they're a principal, or they're a superintendent, is this idea of over-communicating. And I want to challenge and push back on that, because I believe that over-communication can be overwhelming to a parent in the case of what you just found out last week at TSPRA. So our job as school public relations practitioners really needs to be to curate that content, curate how it's served, and curate how it's received. So we always need to be mindful of that. If you're sitting there listening to this right now and think, how the heck do I do this? Let me give you one quick tip. Go into whatever platform you're using. Pull any child in the district. Look at their parent's account. Look to see all of the communications that that parent has received in a given week, particularly if they're a parent of multiple children. So when you think about communicating with parents, a lot of times we're just thinking one-to-one, like I'm communicating with this parent of a third grade student at this elementary school. Well, mama's got a 6th grader and she also has twin 9th graders. And so the idea of all of the deluge of communication that's coming to her can feel overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So if you are over communicating, and inadvertently overwhelming, you might see people tune out.
Yeah, I had a parent come up to us last week at Peachjar because they had just moved from a district that used Peachjar, and they were frustrated because the new district is just sending everything through one platform, and so it's just a deluge of emails, and their family missed the cheerleading tryouts, and it's their daughter's senior year.
No.
And she's been a cheerleader all these years, right?
Nothing will get you in trouble more than cheerleading
tryouts. No doubt. This parent was heated. And so, they were frustrated that they couldn't go back and find that easily, and it just got missed because of basically the over communication.
Yeah.
I would say it was about 13 years ago in my previous district. We did just that, only we didn't do it on a granular level with student by student. We went in and looked at how many calls are we sending out. And we discovered that we sent out well over 1 million phone calls in 1 year alone. And so digging into the data even further, and data is critical. So like Lesley just said, like you've got to dig into the data, let it drive your decisions and educate you and inform. Digging into that data, we found out that parents were hanging up after like 6 seconds. So they would take the call, click.
Okay, so I've got a funny story for that. When I did training in my school system about how to use the robo messaging system, I could show people just how that effort would go and check to see if someone got the message.
Yeah.
The account that I pulled up most frequently, my husband's.
Oh,
he didn't bother listening because I sent the phone call. He's like, you got it for us.
Yeah,
so it would go in, we'd pull up his account, we'd take a look, and he listened to 6 of 15 seconds or 6 of 58 seconds.
Yeah.
I would say another piece of data that people could look at on their automated messaging systems are the lengths of the phone call. Yeah. That is a great data piece right there. And so if you notice that people are hanging up after 15 seconds and your average runtime for a phone call is 58 seconds, or even worse, I've seen something like 2 minutes and 38 seconds. And I just don't know who has the time to hang with a principal or a superintendent for that much time. Figure out ways to chop those messages down so that we can get as much in there as possible before people hang up.
That's a good call. So still on the topic of phone then, when do we send calls home? What are the things that we talk to districts about that are a good use of that medium?
So I'm going to go to telling you how to figure this out, and then I'll give you some tips on which ways that you should use it. I think you might want to take a look at the data inside of your automated messaging system. See the types of phone calls you make. Typically, the automated messaging systems allow you to name them and give them the subject line. Categorize them. Go down, take a look. Does it fall in a category of crisis? Does it fall into a category of just a school level event? Does it, informational? Does it fall into some sort of urgent situation or just a notice of some sort? If you can categorize them, then you can develop a strategy for figuring out how we're going to use that automated messaging platform. Okay, so to your question.
Yes.
You said, when do you use the automated messaging system? Everybody has an automated messaging platform right now. I mean, your hairdresser has one, the city has one.
What is that?
Everybody has it. They found this technology and they all use it. And so we know how anxious, another robocall, click.
Yeah.
I would say in a school environment, anything, absolutely anything involving a crisis situation, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And I would go so far is that if you live in a community where there's some sort of manufacturing plant around, and maybe you've got moms and dads and grandmas that work on the line and can't answer the phone, send them a text with a shortened message. You know, this is from this district, this situation is happening right now. Check your voicemail for details. Give them enough information not to freak them out. If things are okay and we know it's okay, we can say that, but give them a heads up that I'm sending you a text message, go to your voicemail for more details.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Or sometimes I would link back to our website too, like please visit our website for more information or for up to date. You can check in with our social media. Really good tip. So on that note, we're talking about imminent things. Informational stuff, I would encourage people, if it's bake sale or the PTA is having an event, I would discourage that from being a phone call.
I would too.
Yeah, okay. And I would encourage that more as like a website item, or Peachjar is great for that kind of stuff where you're sending out the flyers. And again, that's a different channel of communication, so you're not overwhelming through one platform.
Well, possibly what you should consider doing at the beginning of the year, and this is how you can coach your principals. So this is how you can level up your principals.
I like that.
Talk to them about how they're going to use each communications platform and be consistent about it.
Yes.
So if they get the great idea in August or September that I'm going to have a weekly newsletter, I want to see 36 weeks of newsletters.
Yeah,
okay,
no doubt.
not 12, the first 12 of the year, and then we get tired, but be consistent about it, because what you really are doing is teaching your parents where to go to find information.
Absolutely.
So what we find is that when parents learn about things like the bake sale and picture day and things like that via phone call, it's because somebody didn't plan out the messaging.
Yeah. Last minute. We got to get this out.
We got to get it out. So just like our teacher friends do something called pacing charts, and they develop where a student is today and where we want them to be in 9 weeks or where we want them to be at the end of the school year, map this stuff out. Yeah. What do we want people to know in the first month of the school year, the second month, all the way to the final month of the school year? And then plan accordingly. It will make your communications efforts so much more seamless, because you've already done the homework to figure out what you want to say.
And you know, by doing that, how you're going to push that information out as well. And then that's where you can start being more intentional about not burning a particular method of communication. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the phone calls. It's really easy to burn that line of communication. And then when you need to get emergency or crisis information out, they see that pop up. And if you're basically kind of like we say, like if you cry wolf too many times, and you push that out through the phone too many times, the bake sales or just informational stuff, now the heat of the moment, you really need them to pick up that call, and they might ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of those dangers of using a tool like this. If we overuse it, we could burn it, as you said. But I'm really concerned about burnout of our practitioners, because when you are having to use rely on a certain tool for every situation, it suggests to me that maybe we aren't as planned out and as intentional with all of this stuff. And so the anxiety that you get, like, oh, doggone it, I've got to make a phone call today. I've got to stop what I'm doing to go do this phone call. People at home feel that, you feel that, and then I don't know about you, but sometimes that guilt just sets in, like, I shouldn't have waited to the last minute.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about email. Another really great method of communication. There's a lot of great tools out there. In fact, here at the conference, there'll be a lot of really great vendors that do email, phone, text really, really well. Let's talk through email. When do I use email as a school or a district?
I would say things that we want parents and families and caregivers to hang on to. Okay. Something that maybe if they read that email and you've got a date and time in it, they can, auto link it, and it will jump into their calendar and they can immediately save it.
That's awesome.
Something to go back to. I would say another thing that people aren't always mindful of is giving good subject lines to the email.
Huge.
So if it's a newsletter, rather than, and I did this early in my career. Okay. Our newsletter had a name, and every subject title was the name of the newsletter, which told me nothing about anything if I needed to make decisions in very quick order.
Yeah. Or if the cheerleading tryouts was buried in that newsletter.
Right. Exactly.
No way to go back and find that.
No way to go back and find that. So if you are a former news reporter, like many of us have left one profession and come into this profession, use those journalism skills that you have to give the top stories in whatever that you have. So let's talk a little bit about this email situation. Okay. We also need to think about the time that parents are using. When are they reading these emails? Yeah. How do they receive them? How much content are you putting in them?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
It can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming. Yep. So have you ever used a character counting tool or a word tracker to see how long it would take to read the copy in an email?
Not in an email. I do that with scripts and like on Google Docs a lot, but I've never done that as a PIO before an email went out to parents. It's a good tip.
Why not?
I know, that's great.
See, and just like we look at the total runtime of the phone call, we can look at the read time, because the read time, a silent read time is one thing and the out loud read time is another.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. So when you do that, another thing you want to consider, if you end up with a really long read time for this newsletter or whatever this email is, how many links did you put in there? And do you expect people to check them all?
Yeah. So what would you consider kind of an optimal length for an email?
Ooh, that's a great question. In full transparency, I'm a busy mom and my children do a lot. And so they can't drive and they expect me to chauffeur them around and they remind me of this. So the amount of time that I have while I'm in the car waiting on them to get from one thing to the next before the next child asks me for something else and pulls my attention away, I can give it a good 2-3 minutes,
yeah.
and that's about all I have.
That's where I was at too, and I would suggest that as well. Like kind of that under 3 minutes is that magical area.
I think so.
If you could get it to like a minute, great. You might actually get people to read through that. Anything over 3 minutes, you're really pushing your luck.
And I think too, when we're developing emails for families, we're developing them on a laptop or a desktop computer. But how do our families read these emails?
Yep.
So these really, really, really lengthy emails that might a total runtime read 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 read minutes. How does that feel on a cell phone, scrolling?
Feels terrible.
And then I'm tired or distracted, or my children are fighting in the backseat of the car, or maybe it's just me.
Fighting with yourself.
Right. And then you just move on.
Yeah, it's so true. So, all right, let's talk about let's shift from email to text. I know we align a lot on text messages and the when and the why and how, but walk me through text messaging. When should you be leveraging this as a tool, knowing it's a real serious direct line of communication straight to a parent or guardian's hand?
Again, crisis situations for me.
Same.
You know, I could see picture day that you've got to make sure that you need to lay out clothes the night before, especially for younger children. Yes, and there's all, you know, we see it all the time. Someone goes to picture day with a unfortunate shirt on, and that is immortalized forever. So if mom knew that and she could take the extra 3 minutes to pull out the shirt or to iron the shirt, that might be helpful and a nice courtesy as well. Field trips, I think, could be a good opportunity as well, but be mindful that everyone has this technology. Your hairdresser has this technology. The favorite boutique that you like to shop in will send you 15% off coupons. So whereas it was a resource that no one really had 7, 8, 9 years ago, everyone has it, and you're coming into the stream with it's like merging onto the interstate all at once on rush hour Friday.
And that is truly a line of communication you do not want to burn out. And I echo times of emergency and crisis, critical moments where you really need to get into the hands of parents. I do also think that, you know, reminders here and there are good. Just be really intentional on how many of those you're mapping out for the year and really sending.
A lot of times we're really focused on what we're sending out at the district level, but we need to think about what the principal is sending out. So when you pull your data, look all the way downstream. You want to look at what the district is sending out, what the principal is sending out, and if your platform allows teachers to send out information, you need to look at that too. So like I said, spot pick a child every so often, you know, once or twice a year, run through this little exercise. It might take you 45 minutes to do it, but it's really time well spent.
Pays off.
Because you can go back to your principals and level them up with the data.
Huge dividends. And if you didn't catch what Lesley just said there at the very end, you have to then do something with the data. So pretty much every district has leadership meetings or quarterly meetings with the leadership team. If you can get in front of your administrative assistants as well, they're at the school site level. We know that they do a lot of work in this area, in this regard. So making sure that you're connecting with your administrators, your leadership team at the district level, your leadership team at the school site level, your administrative assistants that are out there at the school site level who are using a lot of these tools, make sure you take that data back to them. And so I know Lesley said it a couple times now, but I really want to dig into that because that's critical. You've gotten this great information at Intel. Now talk to your superintendent, your executive cabinet team about getting in front of these audiences. Put together a little training. You do something on Canva, a little slideshow on Canva if you want to know how to use Canva. I did a great video with Rob Mazzaros from the Kern County Office of Education, Peachjar Extra Credit. Check it out. But get in there, get a really simple presentation going, and get in front of those teams.
I love that. There was a couple of conversations happening online recently about what tools you're using. There's lots of screen recording tools. So if you don't have time to visit all of your sites, Canva does that. Vimeo does that as well. And another tool that I really, really love that most people never consider, there's a Google Chrome extension called Tango. So if you have people who need documentation, they don't want a video, they want tell me step 1, step 2. Basically, that resource allows you to click around on your computer screen and it writes up the directions along with a little screenshot or GIF of what you're clicking on.
Tango, check that out because we've all made we've all made those documents.
And it takes so much time.
It takes forever. So if there's a tool out there, I have not used Tango. I'll be looking at that. But if there's a tool out there that makes that easier, excellent. Okay, so we talked about phone, email, and text. Let's move into websites. So school websites. How can we leverage those to be more intentional in that space? And what are some do's and don'ts around that?
I love that question. Thanks for asking that one. One of the things you'll hear this from me a lot is define a website strategy. So what is the purpose of having your content on your website? How is that website arranged? And I've migrated 3 websites myself as part of being a district and learned a lot through all of those. And I think one thing that I notice for people who have been doing this a while, and there's a little shift that's happening here recently. I don't know if you've noticed this, but way back when, a lot of people would organize their website around their org chart.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes perfect sense for you because you're in the building looking at these people, and there's your director of C&I, and here's your director of transportation. And so it makes great sense to organize that website just like that. Chances are no one knows your org chart.
No.
And
then thus won't know where to even go find information.
No. And we have positions on our org charts that don't make sense by name to people from the outside not doing that job.
So true.
So I've seen a lot lately in people organizing websites around users. So here is the section for parents and caregivers. Here's the section for staff. Here's a section for community. Really streamlines that channel menu that usually the main drop downs that you have. And I really kind of love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the benefit of migrating to myself. It is a sincere benefit. It's a lot of fun, right?
Yes.
But both times the focus was around that. So the shift to particular groups visiting your site, where can they go to get information really easily and efficiently? And that's a huge tip. And if you're interested in some great examples there, be sure to hit us up in the comments. I'd be happy to point you to some districts that are doing a really good job in that area.
Absolutely.
So a couple of things about websites. One thing I do see people do a lot, I see this at the school site level, and it just bugs me a lot, is they'll put like the PTA flyer, the bake sale flyer, or whatever that is right on the homepage.
Shutter.
Yeah, and it just eats up the whole homepage. So remember that your website is your first best impression. It is where people start. Right. So when you have a new family come into the district, or anybody for that matter that looks at your school website, that is the first impression they get about your school, your mission, your program, your services. What you don't want is a pixelated, blurry flyer taking up all the real estate. You've basically given up the opportunity to have that best first impression and turn it over to a document that I find a lot is an image.
Right.
And so for accessibility reasons,
probably not web accessible.
It's really bad, right? Because it's not accessible to individuals who are differently abled and using screen readers, or maybe they're low vision, or they have, maybe they're colorblind.
Right.
So you want to be really intentional in how you do that. Same goes for websites that have really fancy photos around like their news items. You want to make sure those are done in a way that's accessible, but also doesn't give up all your real estate to things that people may not be interested in. Keep in mind, not everybody's going to join the PTA. Not everybody's going to sign up for cheerleading tryouts, right? So if you're giving up, 3/4 of your homepage to that for, a small percentage of your community, you're missing the mark, in my opinion.
I would say that to take that a little further, we talked a little bit about graphic design tools. And so now that everyone has access to graphic design tools and is a part-time graphic designer, because we all are in this job, I would say dial back on your graphic design on the homepage of your website. You are spending more time in doing graphic design, and maybe you don't get much return on investment, particularly if you're going to create web accessibility challenges for yourself. So there's nothing wrong with posting an image on your website, children playing with crayons or working together, and then using the native tools inside of your web content manager platform to be able to add words on top of the picture. So work with your website design team to get that look that you want, and don't spend your time editing graphics to go on your website.
So true. And make sure you have the alt text and those, accessibility things on those images behind the scenes. And
one more.
Ooh,
okay. This is a bonus. So for some of you seasoned communicators who've been around for a while, or you can take this to your principal or your superintendent. Chances are whenever you talk to a seasoned administrator who's been around for a moment, they're going to say, they'll fill in the blanks on this sentence the same way. Whenever I'm on campus or in the hallway and I see a piece of trash, I
Pick it up.
Pick it up. So
Yep.
you're seasoned, right?
Yes.
You just admitted that.
I do.
I got you, right?
I do.
So
Shoot.
I love this example because it makes it real and relatable for our administrators. Our administrators have no problem picking up the trash that they see around the school because it makes an impact on people who are driving up, whether it's coworkers, whether it's prospective families, it's moms and dads, it's students. Pick up the digital trash on your website.
Amen.
Okay. So if it is February and I still see pumpkins on your website, it's time to make a little edit there.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I ask principals to do, and there's no reason for them not to do this because this isn't hard, once a month, take a look at your website.
Absolutely.
See if there's anything out of date.
Takes
Pick up
3 minutes.
the digital trash on that website. If they need your help, obviously they'll call you. Hopefully they have someone at the school level, but that's a really small thing. So that mindset that every seasoned administrator has to pick up the trash, we need that on the websites because that portrays something to families.
It does. It's your digital storefront, and you do need to focus on, does your website reflect your culture? Does it reflect your mission, your programs, your services, what makes your school unique? That's where you want to put your emphasis.
We call that the brand story.
Beautiful.
And so the things that encapsulate your mission statement, your vision statement, your culture, does it look like when I'm looking at your website that you live your mission, that they aren't just words, that if your mission speaks to children being highly engaged in innovative learning practices, do the pictures reflect that? Do children look like they love being in those classrooms? So spend some time developing out your brand story. What are the main takeaways that you want people to know about your district? And how can you use images and text and your website to communicate those things?
That's beautiful. Well, let's talk about some of the additional tools then that I know a lot of schools and districts are leaning into their social media. Let's talk about Peachjar and maybe S'more and Constant Contact and some of the other areas that they have the ability to send out communication outside of just maybe their main mass notification system. So let's talk about social media. And I'm always a huge proponent of keep social media social and leverage it as your biggest cheerleader.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
I'll give you a caveat though. So there's this thing in communications. It's one of those newer communications theories that maybe people may not have studied, particularly if you've transitioned from one field or another, but it's referred to as the PESO model. P for paid, E for earned, S for shared, and O for owned. And the idea is that just like your 401k and your financials, you need to have a healthy mix of all of those things. So for the people that want to put all of their eggs in their social media basket, that comes at a risk because you don't own that platform. The rules could change, the terms could change.
Which we've seen.
You could get locked out. We've seen that too.
Oh, yeah.
How many times have you seen, can anyone help me get back into my Facebook page?
Just yesterday.
Just yesterday. I saw that one too.
Yep.
So leverage it, use it, but understand how and when to use it. That all of your content shouldn't live or just be on social media. It needs to be referred back to your own platforms, which would be your website or your emails and things like that.
And I also encourage schools and districts not to shy away from comments, the comment section. And especially I hear sometimes people talk about the negative attention that they get, or just the upset person in the community that is posting on a totally unrelated topic. Maybe you've put a beautiful video out there of your fourth graders singing, concert. And then there's somebody that's just upset about something the district's done. I always encourage people lean into that space, take it offline where it's more appropriate, put your contact information out there. Hey, I'd love to talk to you more about this. I want to hear about your concerns. Can you reach out to me? But don't shy away from that.
No, it's not a reason to turn off the messages. I've seen superintendents who've made the determination they're going to turn off messaging on social media. And for families and community members, it really feels like the teacher has put them in trouble and sent them to detention because we're going to behave in this particular way. We know how social media is. I mean, if that's a skin that you don't want to be as thin, then maybe that's a reason not to be on social media. And that could be a choice too. That's a strategic decision that a school system can and does make. If you don't have the capacity to do it, or you don't have the time or the resourcing or anything like that. So I would say if you are going to be on social media, notice that it is a big room with lots of conversations happening. Although you're saying things, other folks are talking to you, and sometimes they're not talking to you. And there's nothing wrong with just letting it ride. If there's something that you need to respond to, of course, you'll be monitoring that and you'll jump right on it as appropriate, but you don't have to respond to everything.
No, that's true.
I think the biggest thing that I learned through the pandemic is that no one expects me to manage social media 24/7.
Yeah.
And so if I have to police people on social media, there's not enough money for you to pay me to do that for 24 hours a day. Look at it. Yeah. Make it clear we're going to monitor this account to about 8 p.m. and then it's time for me to go to bed or be off or do something else that's not work related, because that's not healthy to be on social media.
You'll get burned out as a professional.
Absolutely.
I did a recent video with Andrea Gribble, Social School for EDU. She's an amazing rock star when it comes to the space of social media. And we talk about some tips and tricks and strategies in that video as well to kind of avoid that burnout. And be really strategic and intentional on how you manage your social media feeds and step into that space, and even schedule stuff out over breaks so that you can also step away and have moments to yourself. So if you haven't checked that out, check that one out on Peachjar Extra Credit as well. In that one, she talks about, it kind of segues nicely, on social media, you want to avoid, so photos and videos, huge.
Love it.
Videos are even more powerful than photos. So we've all heard photos are worth 1,000 words.
Right.
If you get out there and you just post some text, you'll get some engagement. If you get out there and include a photo with that text, you'll get more engagement. If you get out there and you put a video with that text, you get even more engagement.
Yeah.
It's really good. Andrea was telling me that in her experience and her data, you want to avoid like the just informational flyers out there. And so it kind of segues into Peachjar, another comms tool that I know a lot of people have, which is a really great space to send out the bake sales, the cheerleading tryouts, all of that. And so the districts that you've worked with that have used Peachjar, and I know both of us have implemented Peachjar in our previous districts as well. Talk to me a little bit how you leverage that tool.
One thing I really love about Peachjar's platform is that if mom or dad or grandmother deletes that email, there's always a place you can go back to on the website and find all of that content. What's also great about it is that it's time stamped, if you will. Yep. So as long as it's active and live, you can still find it. If you're one of these people that loves to have inbox zero, this works to your benefit because you can receive that email the first time and then do away with it from your inbox, but be able to access it still through the platform.
It's so true. And before we move on from that, I do want to say that we have a new feature coming soon, which really plays into what we were just talking about right now, and that's scheduled distribution. So now, I mean, you were probably asking for it. I know I was asking for it.
I did. So, I would love to have a little bit of control over when things were going out the door.
So what that means is when you go in as a PIO and approve flyers to be sent out to your community through Peachjar, you'll be able to determine and set what day or days that goes. So you could say once a week or twice a week. We've looked at the data, and once a week or twice a week is the magic spot. Twice a week actually has better open rates with families than once a week. I was surprised at that myself, being a former PIO guy. But you'll be able to schedule when that goes. So you can pick a Monday or a Thursday or a Wednesday, something like that, which is going back to what we were talking about, avoiding the burnout on any one particular line of communication and being strategic in the way that you're using differentiated communication strategies for your various tools. That kind of takes me into something you mentioned earlier, which is newsletters. Ooh. So let's talk s'more real quick.
Okay, let's talk it.
Yeah, so let's talk s'more. So I had s'more in 2 of my previous districts. It is a really great way to build newsletters.
For school districts to have professional looking newsletters in a way that they can actually handle and manage.
Yeah, so when would you use a s'more? Like when you're talking to a school district or a principal, what's your suggestion there around that tool?
So there's a couple of different ways that you can use s'more. You can use it for some sort of weekly ongoing communication with families that where you kind of set it up on Monday and you work on it all throughout the week. And maybe before you go home on Friday, you schedule a distribution on Sunday afternoon. I've worked with principals that had socialized their families to know that every Sunday afternoon about 4 p.m. there was going to be an email from the principal. It would have all kinds of topical things, shout outs and spotlights, and even going so far to talk about attendance at the school-wide level and showing families what the attendance data is. So I think that is great way to use it. But I think another way that you can use that particular tool is if you want to highlight a particular opportunity. Cheerleading trials. So we've already talked about that one. It could be some sort of robotics camp or things like that. If you really just want to isolate one event by itself and call attention with it with a big, bold, beautiful picture, and a little bit more of a story. I think one of the things that I did when I first started coming out of journalism was that I thought everything needed to be a story, a full story that's going to be, you know, 400 words or longer.
Easily digestible. We talked about this.
Yes. I mean, it absolutely could be 4 sentences.
So, absolutely. And people will absolutely appreciate that.
Right. And so use that as an opportunity to challenge your writing chops to see how concisely and tightly that you can write that element.
Absolutely. And don't forget, as Lesley mentioned earlier, headlines are critical in that instance, right? So when people receive that via email, they have an idea of what they're getting into when they dive into that. So let's talk about how S'more and Peachjar might work together. So let me throw a little bit more difficult question at you. How do those tools kind of complement each other?
I think that one of the great things about Peachjar that you can do is with the RSVP feature. I love that. You can purchase tickets right through there. You can do those things on S'more as well, but the analytics are a little bit different. So with the newsletter platform, you're going to be looking at maybe clicks, link clicks, but it doesn't tell you about behaviors. It just told you that someone clicked the link. If you are looking to see how many people registered, signed up, bought a ticket, those types of things, you're going to be able to do that with a little bit more granularity with Peachjar. If you're working with outside entities that say your local Parks and Rec center that is sending information via Peachjar, those are analytics that they would receive as well. Whereas if you were sending that through a newsletter platform, those analytics are yours and not theirs, and they can't see them. Yeah,
that's so true. So I ask you that because I end up getting this question quite a bit as a former PIO, and now as a part of Peachjar's marketing team. People ask me, how does Peachjar and Constant Contact and S'more and our mass notifications, how do they all work together? And the real caveat there is Peachjar,
any way you want.
Exactly. Yeah, Peachjar is not a newsletter service, right? And so something like S'more or Constant Contact. But you have seen
people use Peachjar as a newsletter.
Absolutely.
And you can do
that. So what I tell people is, if you are developing a newsletter somewhere else, you can still send that out through Peachjar. And if it's appropriate, make sure you're also including, other translations, right? So that you're reaching all of your families in that space. But what's great about it is they really do complement each other, because Constant Contact or S'more doesn't do what Peachjar does, and vice versa. But you can use the two platforms to promote the other.
So here's an interesting way to look at this. When I first started working in school PR in 2007, I was getting information from outside entities and even entities inside the school via email. Somebody would put something in my mailbox. They'd leave me a voicemail. They'd slide something under my door. There's pigeon carrier and some smoke signals too, I think.
Amen.
And all of these things were coming in, and I'm sitting in a lot of meetings. And so I am causing a blockage of being able to deliver that information out. One thing I realized about Peachjar, I don't know if you've already realized this, but Peachjar really allows people from the outside to have access to your email distribution platform without unmasking all the emails. So they take the responsibility for posting their own content. And then you go in on whatever schedule, if you want to do it daily, you can do it daily. But if it's easier for you every Wednesday at 10 a.m. to look at those for the week and you can schedule that, then you can do that. And no longer are you the bottleneck as the practitioner, because you've got to sit there and figure out how to organize the platform and line this up to send out.
Or upload a flyer and put it in Constant Contact or something else. It's just a really efficient, streamlined way to send informational resources, school, district, and community resources to your parents, guardians, and community through Peachjar. And then you can also lean into these other tools and leverage like those bigger stories and some of those other ways. So
can I say this about Peachjar? So every time you upload your flyer to Peachjar, it generates a URL. So we're talking about, how does all of this stuff fit in together? How does it integrate? What we will see is that someone will get on their website and they will create a beautiful graphic on Canva, spend an hour or two making that and upload that, and then upload something to Peachjar and then send an email. Well, because the flyer system does generate a URL, drop that URL on your website. There's no need to reinvent the wheel with that. And then you could count the clicks that come through your website well to be able to see how people engage with it.
You've got a State of the District event coming up and you've got that flyer going out, and your superintendent asks, what are how many people have looked at it? What are the analytics? You have them, which is what's great.
In the same way that when, everybody seemed to be on Facebook at one point in time and people have kind of dialed back their Facebook usage, Facebook events, you don't have to be on Facebook. So if grandma's not on Facebook, or my dad, he's not on Facebook, that Facebook event is public. So it doesn't matter if you are logged in or not, you still are going to be able to see that. So once we started figuring out tips and tricks like that, it definitely made work more efficient for our team.
So true. All right, last thing I want to talk about, and then we'll kind of wrap up here. Speaking of efficient for our team, what about those all-staff emails?
As long as they're not in the to field or CC and someone hits reply all, I'm okay.
What is with the reply all? Can we please
You know
stop
it's going to
that?
happen.
It
It is going to happen. Other than that, I'm okay with them. But I do think that we need to be cognizant of our colleagues' time. So the majority of your colleagues in a school system are going to be teachers. When are you sending out this content? Again, this goes back to strategy and planning these things out and when they're going to be distributed. So if you're sending out content at 3:02 on any given afternoon, and you know that your teachers are overwhelmingly young parents that have to go pick up children before they start charging you by the minute, that's probably not the best time to send it. So, you know, sometimes I would send our all staff emails at 7 a.m. Teachers are coming in at different times. They could read it whenever throughout the day as it worked for them. But again, that requires you having a strategy and planning out things as simple as when you're going to send it. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. Well, I hope this was helpful. So many of these tools really do complement each other.
They do.
And what you want to do is really just dig into the data. I mean, we've said data like probably 20 times at this point, but let data inform and drive your decisions in how you use these tools.
Exactly.
Really look at how you're using your emails and what kind of information you're sending out that way, your phone calls, your text, your informational flyers, and make sure that you are using the tools in the way that gets you the most impact. Going back to, you have to focus on your needs of your community and their need for communication, not just your need to communicate to them.
Exactly. So for those of you that have been familiar with things that I talk about a lot, I talk about the 4-step process: research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. We've spent a lot of time today talking about the data that you can generate from these automated messaging platforms. That's your research. Sit down, take some time to analyze it, figure out how to make sense of those numbers and what do you need to do with the information that you have in it. That's your plan. Then it's time to start implementing it. So we're not just going to send out emails whenever and text when someone sends us a text and say, hey, can you send this out? Map your day out, map your month out, map your school year out, because by and large, most of the content that you're being asked to distribute is repeat. It's rinse and repeat. So if we know what we need to put out and when we need to put it out and we can schedule it, then we make time for crisis events. We make time for special initiatives and other fun things that we want to talk about in our district. And then after we do that, then it's time to evaluate it. Go back to the analytics, pull it, look at it again, see if it worked. If it didn't, fix it. Absolutely. Well, hopefully you found this information helpful. I know I've learned some today, which is awesome. It's always wonderful talking to you. I can't thank you enough for spending the morning here with me. I know it's going to be a very fun next couple of days as we learn from each other, and all the professionals are coming in from all over the state. Hopefully our friends from up north make it from the snow. I know, that's crazy. The Tahoe area, we have some people come from up there, and one of my PR friends, she was sending me pictures last night from Tahoe of her full-size pickup truck, and it's like 3 feet above the truck, the snow. You know, I'm from Alabama, and it's actually warmer in Alabama right now than it is in Southern California. I wasn't prepared for that. It is wild here. Yes. Well, thank you so much for spending the morning with me. If you like this, be sure to like, share, comment, follow for more. Feel free to comment in the comment section here of the video. We'll get in there. We'll interact with you. If you have ideas on things you'd like to see in the future, be sure to add that in the comments as well. And we've got plenty more in the pipeline planned for you, so stick around. Cool. That's it.